On June 6, 1944, the shores of Normandy, France was stained with blood. Countless of lives lost for the fight for freedom and justice on D-Day. This battle was fought between the Allies versus the Nazis. On the Allied side, the major combatants were the United Kingdom and the United States.
On June 6, 1944, 160,000 Allied troops landed along a 50-mile stretch of heavily fortified French coastline to fight Nazi Germany on the beaches of Normandy, France. Major combatants were the Allied nations and German forces occupying Western Europe. 12 Allied nations provided fighting units that participated in the invasion, including Australia, Canada, Belgium, France, Czechoslovakia, Greece, New Zealand, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, United Kingdom, and the United States. On D-Day, the Allies landed around 156,000 troops in Normandy. The American forces landed numbered 73,000, which included 23,250 on Utah Beach, 34,250 on Omaha Beach, and 15,500 airborne troops. In the British and the Canadian sector, 83,150 troops were landed, 24,970 on Gold Beach, 21,400 on Juno Beach, 28,845 on Sword Beach, and 7,900 airborne troops. 11,590 aircraft were available to support the landings. On D-Day, Allied aircraft flew 14,674 sorties, and 127 were lost. In the airborne landings on both flanks of the beaches, 2,395 aircraft and 867 gliders of the RAF and USAAF were used on D-Day. By the end of June 11, 326,547 troops, 54,186 vehicles, and 104,428 tons of supplies had been landed on the beaches, as well as the troops who landed in Normandy on D-Day and those in the air and sea. Millions more men and women in different Allied countries prepared for D-Day. Many of them played thousands of different roles, both in the armed forces and as civilians. The Battle of Normandy lasted from June 1944 to August 1944. Codename Operation Overlord, the battle began on June 6, 1944, also known as D-Day, when some 156,000 Americans, British, and Canadian forces landed on 5 beaches along a 50-mile stretch of the heavily fortified coast of France's Normandy region. The invasion was one of the largest amphibious military assaults in history and required extensive planning. Prior to D-Day, the Allies conducted a large-scale deception campaign designed to mislead the Germans about the intended invasion target. By late August 1944, all of northern France had been liberated, and by the following spring, the Allies had defeated the Germans. The Normandy landings have been called the beginning of the end of war in Europe. The armed forces used codenames to refer to the planning and execution of specific military operations. Operation Overlord was the codename for the Allied invasion of Northwest Europe. The assault phase of Operation Overlord was known as Operation Neptune. Operation Neptune began on D-Day and ended on June 30, 1944. By this time, the Allies had established a firm foothold in Normandy. Operation Overlord also began on D-Day and continued until Allied forces crossed the River Seine on August 19, 1944. Countries had different leaders who showed great strength and determination throughout the war. The leaders on the United States side were Dwight D. Eisenhower, also the 34th president, and Omar Bradley. The United Kingdom included Bernard Law Montgomery, Stafford Leigh Mallory, Arthur Tedder, Miles Dempsey, and Bertram Ramsay. On Germany's side was Erwin Rommel, Gerd von Rundstedt, and Frederick Dahlmann. Guerrilla, tank, and aerial warfare were highly practiced during the times of the War of D-Day.
Pluto was a pipeline under the ocean and delivered vital oil to the tanks and aircrafts in France. The Mulberry landing docks were huge metal docks made in England and floated over to Normandy. These allowed for tanks and supplies to be successfully unloaded. Some of the weapons were the Thompson and the famous M1 Yaw. Bazookas, flamethrowers, regular machine guns, battleships, plane bombs, mines, TNT, and much more were also used. Parachutists would land behind the beaches under cover of darkness to seize key points such as bridges or road junctions. This was an all-arms operation, meaning air, land, and sea elements had to work together to achieve success.
With great power and destruction came with great fatal outcome. The United States had about 6,603 casualties. The United Kingdom had 2,700 casualties, and Canada had about 1,000 casualties. Germany, however, was estimated between 4,000 and 9,000 casualties.
D-Day was significant because it was the turning point of World War II. It marked the start of the Allies' invasion of Western Europe and paved the way for Allied victory. D-Day is the day that the Allied forces landed on the coast of France, Normandy, to begin the liberation of France and eventual defeat of the German war machine, resulting in the end of World War II in Europe. Steadily, the Russians were rolling the Eastern Front back towards Berlin, but the landings of principally the US, British, and Canadian forces in great numbers on the Normandy beaches signaled the nearing of the end of the Third Reich, plus the Nazis' domination in World War II. But it would be 11 months before the Germans finally surrender.
The following communique has just been issued by Supreme Headquarters, Allied Expeditionary Force.
Under the command of General Eisenhower, Allied naval forces, supported by strong air forces, began landing Allied armies this morning on the northern coast of France.
People of Western Europe, the hour of your liberation is approaching. All patriots, men and women, young and old, have a part to play in the achievement of final victory. This landing is but the opening phase of the campaign in Western Europe. Great battles lie ahead. I call upon all who love freedom to stand with us now. Keep your faith staunch. Our arms are resolute. Together we shall achieve victory.